send it out. Hi and good afternoon and welcome to the South of England Showground at this year's South of England Show. My name's Justin Ellis and I'm a trustee of the Society and it's my pleasure to welcome you here to the Wildlife and Food Production Theatre, where today we're hosting this year's Technical Forum ably hosted by Mark Campbell. So I just wanted to call out our sponsor Savills. Thank you for their support for this event. I'll just hand you over to Mark, who'll introduce you to Jamie, Kirsty and Romney, and look forward to hearing what your conversation is today. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you, Justin, and welcome everyone here live, and also welcome everyone who's dialing in online. As Justin said, this is the one of the technical forums hosted by the South of England Show Society, and today we're going to discuss with this esteemed panel the harvesting opportunity, the modern farming mindset, coming live from the South of England Show 2025 here in Ardingly, Sussex. So just a bit more detail about the technical forums. And technical forums are a series of digital debates that we cover current topics with a wide range of rural professionals to keep our membership and the wider rural community informed. The technical forum then culminates with the annual farming conference, which this year is on the 12th of November, where we'll unpick the title of Adapting with Purpose, Farming in a Changing World. So keep your eyes on the website and on social media for the tickets that will be available very, very shortly. So today's debate, Harvesting the Opportunity, Farming in the Modern World, we're going to explore what it takes to farm successfully in this rapidly changing world that's full of challenges, from policy shifts to environmental demands, to labour shortage, to market volatility and everything else in between. But this session is not going to be about the problems, it's going to be about mindset. How can we think in ways that unlock new opportunities, from productivity to sustainability and profitability in UK agriculture? So I'm absolutely delighted today to have three fantastic panellists, each bringing a unique perspective to UK agriculture. We have Kirsty Speed, a farming and environmental consultant from CLM in the local area. We have Romney Hole, a local farmer and also manages an events business within the farm from down on the Pevensey levels. And then we have Jamie Stokes, that's jumped from one county to another, from Cambridge as an arable farmer, but also a recent and nearly completing Nuffield Scholar who will dive into his international research. As Justin said, we want to really thank proudly our sponsors Savills for this sessions, the leading voice in food and farming sector, offering consultancy, land management, environmental services throughout Sussex and also across the country. So we're going to tackle some big questions today. We're going to share some real-world insights and we're going to welcome your input. So whether you're here in the room or whether you're dialed in online, please join the conversation and get involved. So let's get into this. So, Romney, could you just introduce yourself briefly to the panel and to the live audience?
Hi, my name is Romney Hole. I farm down in East Sussex on an organic beef and sheep farm. We put conservation in the heart of all we do on the farm, and we also run a wedding venue over the summer season.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Romney. Kirsty, over to you.
Yep, I'm Kirsty Speed, as he said, a farm and environment consultant at CLM. We're a land and property and environmental consultancy working in Sussex, Kent and across the south coast, really.
Fantastic. And no measly, Jamie.
So I'm an arable farmer from Cambridgeshire, where I grow blackgrass really, really well. I think it'd be the best way to describe what we do.
Brilliant, thank you. Thank you very much, Jamie. So let's get stuck in. Let's start with the bigger picture and some wider questions. So we hear a lot about modern farming mindset. What does that mean to you as a panel? Kirsty, do you want to start us off?
Yep, I think that agriculture is changing very rapidly, and with it, the mindset. A lot of farmers have, traditionally followed exactly what their parents has done, as we were talking about earlier, and a modern mindset really means to think outside the box, look across at what your neighbour's doing, and consider how it might work on your farm, not necessarily shut it down straight away. So I think in general, there's a lot more or growing optimism in the industry, hopefully, about different opportunities and seizing those opportunities as and when they come across your doorstep rather than shutting them down. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I think seizing opportunities is very important. I think there is a lot of information out there and technology, so we do a lot of work with genetics. I'm getting into that, learning how to track sheep, which is an absolutely impossible task, reducing medicine use and finding novel ways to look after wildlife, because textbooks get outdated, and we're finding that different aspects and different people's approaches are having better results than what a textbook has to say. I also think with the modern farming mindset, we're actually going back to quite an ancient form of agriculture and really focusing on what our farm is telling us and responding to that rather than relying on modern medicines or sprays, and that is very, very important.
Brilliant, thank you. Jamie, what about yourself?
To be perfectly honest, that question really bugged me when you sent me that online. Modern farming mindset, I tended to take it part. There's a farming mindset and there's a modern mindset, and I feel like they haven't quite joined together yet, that agriculture still has a lot to learn from what the rest of society is getting up to.
Why would you say that is? What would your reasons be for that?
But beyond personal experience, I think differently to everybody else, but I still come down to the same conclusions as my father and my grandfather, which really annoys me sometimes as well, because they're definitely antiquated. But there is, having travelled a lot and seen a lot of other businesses and a lot of exciting things going on around the world, and you come back to agriculture where there seems to be resistance to change a lot of the time. And we farm the same way that our father farms, our grandfather's farms. I mean, they could walk onto my arable farm and talk about the same things that they were doing then, and we have the same problems now and probably the same solutions. And I don't think there's a big mindset shift yet, particularly in my part of the world, between the generations. But if you look at what society is moving on to, there's definitely a lot more out there that we could pick from and bring into agriculture.
No, I think you're definitely right. And the things that I'm picking up from here is agility, is peering over the fence and nicking your neighbour's ideas, and just being adaptable to and open-minded to trying new different things, whether it is listening to the farm and taking a step back on what that's doing, or whether it is, like you say, seeing what other people are doing and not shutting it down completely because grandfather or grandmother didn't do it in that way. So thinking about that and trying to make these shifts, which mindset change and attitudinal change is very, very difficult. What approaches do you believe we possibly need to think about or need to adopt as a farming community to make those changes and make that attitudinal change?
Well, having just come off the back of a Nuffield Scholarship where I have travelled around the world and looked at other farms and other industries, the first thing I would do is get off farm and go and see what other people are doing and pick up from new ideas. One of the examples I keep using is I was in Detroit having a cup of coffee at a coffee stall with a one-man band who had redesigned his coffee menu because he realised that people don't actually understand what the difference between a cappuccino, a latte, a flat white is. They just order what they think they want. So his design was you start off with an espresso, which is what all coffee is based on, and you just add as much milk as the customer asks for, and that was it. So pick your coffee, how much milk do you want in it? I was like, well, if it's that simple, why is nobody else doing it? Why can't we change that thought process and make what we do as transparent to the public? So there is so much to learn from other industries.
Definitely. What about yourself, Kirsty?
Kind of on a similar wave, to be honest. I think that agriculture, in generally, I think we need to move away from the idea of you're either a farmer or you're a businessman. Farmers are inherently businessmen, whether they like it or not. And you have to look at the farm as a business, analyse all of the enterprises and see how you could optimise them individually, but also help them to support enterprises to work together and maximise the income from that. We do a lot of work about ecosystem services or doing environmental schemes, and how can you integrate those to help improve your improve productivity in your livestock enterprises, or provide bird strips that work with a holiday let or a venue, wedding venue, and that sort of thing. Thinking at a higher level than just farming, thinking about it as a business and profitability.
No, very good.
Please, can you repeat the question?
So the question is what shifts in attitude or approaches do we believe that UK farmers need to do to adopt this new thriving world?
Okay. I believe that there should be a focus on nature-friendly farming across the board, and I actually think within the Pevensey levels where I farm, there is a really positive shift in our cluster group towards this, and we're seeing huge amounts of change. And I think for a lot of people, they've grown up and they've done it a certain way, but there has been a very open and accepting environment and attitude in the past couple of years. So I think that's a real positive, but I think keep focusing and not letting the government ruin your work to perform in a nature-friendly way whilst having good, well, for me, quality products that you can sell locally and connect with your local community. So I think that's where I'm at.
So the things I'm getting from there is simplification and not overcomplicating. We're always good at overcomplicating things, and some of the places I've worked and the things that I do are definitely overcomplicate things, which leads to difficulty in getting people to adopt and use those processes. We're starting to think about in terms of making sure you're wearing all the hats and you're not just branded with one trait. You are a businessman, you are an environmentalist, you are a farmer, and all those bits, and then utilise your local environment and the environment around you and farm that to the benefit of multiple things. If we stay with you, Romney, you run a very interesting business down on the Pevensey levels, and you also run an events business as well. How do you flip between the farmer hat and the events manager, and how do those kind of different worlds influence each other within your business?
It is very connected. I think we view our wedding venue as an extension of the green economy we have on the farm. So our biggest selling point is having a beautiful place to come and get married, and that is intrinsically linked with the environmental work we do on the farm, and having beautiful Sussex cattle roaming through the levels and Romney sheep looking fabulous and not looking shaggy like they usually do at the end of the summer, and so they are very, very linked. And I think my switching hat is probably just one hat, and it just all links into one. And I think having 150 people come up every weekend and really validate what we do is a big driver for me. So I think that's a sort of key thing to keep pushing on with the environmental work we do, as well as producing the best quality beef and sheep we can.
Fantastic. Building on that, we'll come to you, Kirsty. So you're out and about around the county, visiting farms. What kind of shifts have you seen? What are the big bits you see with your clients that have allowed them and enabled them to make these changes and adapt to what's going on in the industry currently?
I think probably very similar to Romney, in that we've seen farmers that there's been perhaps some apprehension to enter into environmental schemes because it's not producing food, it's producing a different service that this country needs, or that the government want to push, and that is habitat for biodiversity. And I think generally farmers have become slightly more open-minded to that and are embracing it. And unfortunately with the sustainable farming incentive, it was starting to encourage more sustainable practices in agriculture within arable, so that people could continue to grow a crop and be paid to reduce insecticides or what have you. That was really positive, and was helping to shift the needle. But since that there's a change in policy, whether how that comes back, we'll see. But it's definitely we're seeing the next shift, which is how can I be less reliant on government subsidies and look to other areas of my business to prop up, and most of that is diversification, I think.
So hopefully out of some of those, the positives of that shift in terms of farming, both profitably, productively and environmentally, is starting to shift in terms of how we do get away from the various dynamics that are in policy and the funding that goes with that. Yes, of course you can.
I think that is a very good point, but I do think sustainability within our farming businesses goes hand in hand with good quality crops and produce. So although they're often viewed as two separate things, I actually think they are very, very linked. And actually the mindset shift has been realising that you need to look after your farm in order to produce good quality products. But also with the diversification, you need to have a resilient business, and that is a really good option for lots of farmers, because quite often farming doesn't make a lot of money. We are very well subsidised on our farm for the environmental work we do, and we really believe that that's not going to change. I don't think that there's ever going to not be a need for green spaces and wildlife, and therefore, I think people should continue focusing on that. But again, as you said, look at diversification, look at your neighbours, go out and see other farms and research and, jump on every opportunity you can get.
That's a really valid point, Jamie.
Just sort of, we've talked about going to see other farms and going to see what other people are doing, but I think when you talk about food production, we need to get out and see the people who are buying our food. And when we talk about taking land out of production, the people we need to go and see are the people who are struggling to buy food at the moment, and you understand where they come from, and then what your reaction to what we do changes. So taking food out of production when someone can't afford to buy food that we're producing as it is, how does that all add up? Not that I come up here with an answer, not that I want to take anything away from anybody, but I come from different points of view.
I don't view it as taking productive land out of production. There is this sort of 80-20 rule, which is 80% of our food is produced off 20% of the land. And what are we doing with that other 80%? I think most farmers find that they have a field or a corner of their farm which they pump more fertiliser in than they ever get a yield from, and you can look at your sort of maximum sustainable outputs and how much that is actually benefiting, as you said, that the people who aren't eating or having good access to good quality food. And actually that isn't what's making a difference, I don't think. And I also believe that sorry, this is something I will ramble about. I think that we waste a third of the food that we have. That is something that gets overlooked. I also think we've got a significant number of golf courses. Apologies if anybody likes to play golf. That if you're going to talk about taking land out, we're looking at sort of essentially wasted space if you're worried about food production. And those are not benefiting the environment necessarily. Maybe the general mentality, which is not to be forgotten.
No, that's a really interesting point, and we won't go down the golf course route. My son's a groundsman, and you'd be horrified at some of the inputs that actually get utilised in those areas. So really interesting and really poignant points there about business resilience and about productive land and utilising of land where it's good. Jamie, let's come to you again quickly. You've travelled the world, you've completed your Nuffield, in process of writing up all your findings. What on your travels, what's inspired you, and what have you seen in terms of mindset shift and change that has really stuck out for you on those travels?
So when I set off on my Nuffield, it was taking my perspective as a large arable farmer who has field corners that I can't quite get my sprayer in, and then going to see businesses who have entire food production operations within those field corners. That's where I wanted to start. And I ended up in cities, in places where people are growing food out of necessity in the favelas of Brazil and in the slightly more difficult parts of Detroit, where the only way they have access to fresh food is to grow it themselves. And then I changed tact, having done that, and then went to see businesses who are thinking differently about how they are interacting with food and how the interaction with the customer is different. And everywhere I've seen and everything I've come, you come back with new ideas, and then you sit down, you have to go, well, okay, now how do I turn around and apply this back to what we do at home? And I don't have an answer for that yet. I've seen some fantastic places, there were some great ideas, and then you come back to a large arable farm and you think, well, I've still got to take the sprayer out, and I'm not entirely sure what the answer to that one is yet.
So, yeah, watch this space.
Watch this space, yeah.
Cool. Kirsty, if we come to you, and just building on some of the points and the last previous questions. So that balance between environmental outcomes and business profitability, what practical things are you seeing out in the field that your clients and farmers within the region are trying to do to evolve and adapt?
I think there's a lot of people thinking outside the box about how people are interacting. You know, Romney, you'd see this as well. Like, there's a lot of we're in a very densely populated area in the southeast, and there's a lot of you get lots of walkers, lots of people, and I think there's some farmers. I was going to use Duncan as an example for this, who sort of see how farmers see how the general public are interacting with their farm and think, rather than get off my land, how can I support that and monopolise on it? So, you know, if people are walking and out there, how can you engage them? How can you get them more animated about food production or what they're seeing? How can you get them animated about the crops, about the livestock, and the spaces that you have, the produce that you're creating, and just trying to educate through exposure. There's lots of people around. They're already on your farm. And monetize it. Exactly. Like, what can you sell from your, from the farm gate? What can you, the spaces that you manage, that sort of thing.
So that connection piece with the consumer and reducing the gap between production and the actual consumer, which is a good point. Hold the point about monetising, Romney, because I'll come to you. We've talked now about.
I'm not very good at
No. We've brought the point there about connecting with the consumer and utilising the public and bringing them onto farm. You mentioned there about bringing 150 people onto the farm for a wedding or an event or something like that. How is community really important to your business, and how could that element really affect a developing farming mindset?
I mean, it's very important to our business. The wedding venue, we sell locally to local butchers. Our farm is run off the community that we're in and the relationships that we build within that. So on monetising that, it sounds very crass to put it that way, but we're looking to have a resilient business. We can't rely necessarily on the government to support us anymore. So it is something we have to think about, and what we can offer that would be really valuable to the local community. You know, I see quite a lot of housing estates going up without any green space to go to, and I think that's really concerning. And we have children that come onto the farm and they have never seen a cow before, and you think, right, this is actually a really, really devastating sort of gap that we're seeing between our local community, and it's right there. So I think having people coming up and using it, you know, there will be aspects where I'm very happy to do, you know, free farm walks for children and schools and work with schools, but also, you know, protecting our business so we can carry on doing what we're doing.
So that development of community, and not only utilising your local butcher and your local market and your local veg grower or greengrocer to actually fuel and be part of the events business, also thinking about the opportunity that the growth in developments and housing could have on the farm by, again, better connection with the consumer on farm. That's fantastic. Jamie, we'll come to you next.
I'll try and answer this one.
So you're a large-scale arable farmer up in Cambridgeshire. How do you navigate risk, change, and innovation all simultaneously?
So you need to separate out risk and change, because taking a risk does not mean making significant changes, and making changes does not necessarily mean you're going to take a risk. But so we've spent a lot of time. Arable farming basically is you get bigger, you get more efficient. That's how arable farming works. And once you've taken that as far as you can go, and you start to look around what other people do, it's very easy to come across people in our industry who are very vocal and very passionate about their idea, and you have to take that and pick it apart and go, right, can I take any of this and apply it back to my business at home? Will that work on my soil type? Will that help combat the blackgrass problem that I've got? And then you have to sort of change and think, be willing to take everything apart and challenge everything, and then come back, because it's very easy to take an idea and run with it and end up with a problem 5 years down the line.
To unpick it and continually challenging yourself. Again, if there's any questions coming in from the floor or any questions online, just pop your hand up and shout and get involved in the discussion. So, Kirsty, we'll come to you. What advice would you give about you're working in the environmental space? We've talked a lot about community and about the linking with productive agriculture and also environmental agriculture. What advice or what would you tell a farmer or a client that was hesitant about engaging with kind of going further into the environmental ways of farming to complement their productive farming?
I think I would say to be open-minded to the organisations working in your local area. There's a lot of people with a lot of data, a lot of charitable organisations and things like that who can help inform you on what changes how they might impact the environment around you, and also how it might impact on your productivity going forward. Being open-minded to listen to those people and work with organisations is really important. And as Romney said, the environment isn't separate to agriculture. Increasing productivity and increasing fertility or habitats for biodiversity do not have to be in tandem. They can work together. So just be open-minded to it. And if the government, when SFI opens, don't dismiss it as this is government paying us not to produce food. That's not the case. Absolutely jump on that bandwagon. Well said.
And adding to that, and we talked a little bit about cluster groups and communities and things like that. I truly believe that farmers are fantastically resilient wherever you may farm, and we're a great community. Would talking to and getting involved with people that are actually trying these things and trying something different be a way to adapt and to change that mindset?
Yes, we actually, part of what we do is facilitate cluster groups, and we've been to lots of different farms and seen what they're doing. Some of them are very extreme. We've gone from one extreme, which was somebody who's gone wholeheartedly into an agri-environment and no longer sells a produce from their farm. They are a fruit farmer, so they do produce food, but they're not selling it. And then on the other end, we've gone to somewhere that's it's a similar theme. It's an environmental thing that is being funded through nature markets. So in both instances, the farmers or people visit, think, oh, this is great, I should do all of this. And then by the end of the visit, They think, actually, do you know what? There's a few flaws in this. It was really interesting seeing an extreme, and I'm going to take a few things away from it and add it to my already very dynamic, very agile business, and just take a few things from these groups, and that's what they're all about, is learning from one another, seeing how each other does it. Think, I'll take that bit, but not that bit.
I think that's a really, really important point, that we should never try and eat the cake all at once. It's piece by piece, and you do. There needs to be a bit of reflection time there, and to actually think about what bit you can pinch from your neighbour, or what scheme you can get involved with that will actually benefit your business. And the key to anything, for me, in terms of mindset change, is all about consistency, and it's about creating a habit. So it's like the whole thing. With after Christmas, everyone joins the gym, which the gyms make an absolute fortune in December and January. But 90% of all UK people break their New Year's resolutions or their changes on the 17th of January because it's not consistent and they haven't formed that positive habit. Jamie, did you want to come in?
Coming off the back of that, in agriculture, we're very good at finding a problem and not very good at finding unique solutions to it. We tend to find one person who's got a solution that worked on their farm, and we'll run in and go, that's how we're going to solve it over here. You almost need to take a step back from the problem and find a different way in. Some of the most fascinating people I've spoken to are people who've just seen the problem from a completely different angle and have come up with a different solution that not necessarily worked for me, but if you think through their way, then you come around a completely different side and find another solution that does work for you. It's about taking your knowledge of your farm, because all of our farms are different, and then trying to find the problem or way to fit the answer to the problem into your system, rather than wholeheartedly taking what your neighbour's doing, because that might not work.
And thinking about that, in terms of the farming community, we're generally very open. We're not competing necessarily against each other. And if you phoned up me and said, I want to go wander around an arable farm in Sussex, I guarantee there'd be people in this room that open up and share all sorts of things with you.
They'd make me clean my boots before I came in, though.
After what you've said, definitely. But in terms of that sharing and just viewing someone else's perspective on a challenge to find that solution is possibly a way that we could learn and change mindset.
One thing I will say, though, is that we get very pigeonholed. So you just said, I'll go and see an arable farm. The last place I probably want to go is go and see an arable farm. Nuffield has opened my eyes to learning from other people. So I think as an industry, we really need to stop going and seeing, I'm an arable farmer, so I'm going to go and visit an arable farm here and an arable farm there and fly over to Australia and go and see them grow wheat over there. You need to just switch disciplines, go on, because there'll be a problem that other people are doing that you will find an answer to from a different perspective. And you can learn much more. I'd probably learn more from a dairy farm than I would from an arable farm, to be perfectly honest. Don't tell the dairy farmers I said that.
Yeah. And I could probably even push it a bit further in terms of out of industry.
Yeah.
And not a plug for the thing that I do, but AgriLeader and the HDB AgriLeader programme, we will draw from people from outside of agriculture to bring them inside of agriculture. And they are probably, many industries are facing similar challenges, but in different contexts. So that's a really, really valid point. Romney.
Sorry, I can't resist it. I do agree that you can see exactly what you said, but I think from what we're doing on the pendency levels, our farmers, we're in a cluster group, but we really need to work together because we're on 10,000 acres, there are about 100 farmers on it, and the nature corridors that we're trying to develop there involve everybody to be on board and to be open to the ideas that everybody else is having. So it's a sort of subsect where actually it's no competition, except who has the most lapwing on their farm, which is very, very disappointing at the moment. But it's a way of really sort of getting involved and having, I think some of the questions you talk about isolation in farming, that is not an isolated environment. That is absolutely working with your neighbour, and it's a really important relationship. And I think also being a farmer, it's a huge privilege to be able to go onto other people's farms and see what they're doing. It's a really valuable lesson, no matter what you take away from it.
No, definitely wholehearted. And staying with you, Romney, let's build on that. So challenges, we all face challenges on a day-to-day basis. Running that diverse business, farming and events. Have you had any recent challenges that you might have turned into opportunities? And how did that kind of your thought process and your mindset play that a part into making the opportunity?
So I think everybody in the farming industry is suffering under this new government. I think it's been a valuable lesson in building a resilient business. So I think for us, I'm looking at how I can really push my livestock to be the best and highest quality. And actually a change has been to go to native breeds. So we are moving away from our commercial herd to native Sussex. Very cheeky, but I love them. And I mean, my name is Romney and I have a Romney flock. And I am trying to turn them into a pedigree flock and hoping to use genetic data and move away from chemistry to have this, in my dreams, a beautiful chemistry-free flock that I can sell, use out to other people who are interested.
So kind of, yeah, going back to the point you made about farming in your environment and understanding your environment, you're trying to create stock and breed stock that aren't heavily reliant on inputs and are very well suited to the environment where you farm.
Yeah.
That's all good. Brilliant. We'll come back to Jamie. So, younger farmers.
Before you get to your question, we talked about challenges.
Yep.
Challenges are just an opportunity you don't understand yet.
Yeah, no, it's a very, 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 very good point, and definitely is. Always the glass should be half full. So, younger farmers, Gen Z.
What about them?
I challenge this as a father of four. I don't understand huge amounts of things that they get up to as young teenagers. How could we embrace the next generation of farmers that are farming now and embrace their fresh way of thinking and looking at the sector and the industry?
Oh, it's accepting that there is a new way of thinking about things. It's not pushing them into the same tropes that we were pushed into as a younger generation. If you find somebody who comes onto your farm and looks at something that you're doing and says, "Why are you doing it like that?" Don't necessarily go, "We have to do it this way because that's how it should be done." Let them go, "Okay, well, how should we be doing this? What can you see that I can't see?" Because they are so much more, because they've got access to more world information than what we had when we were growing up. They are full internet generations. They are seeing more than we ever saw. And there is more potential for a new way of thinking that they're just taking in from other places. So let them run with it.
Yeah, so it's give them the chance and give them the opportunity. Sit on your hands, go on holiday, and let them have a go.
I mean, well, yes, maybe. I mean, you come back to it. So like we said earlier, that farming hasn't changed that much. My grandfather recognises the way I farm, even though he can't drive any of the tractors anymore. So that section hasn't changed. But if you are going to find new solutions to problems, they're not going to come from our way of thinking. You've got to let somebody in who is willing to think in a different way and let them have a go at it.
And would you also say, have a go and also let them make a few mistakes, or let people make a few mistakes, because that's the way that we learn?
Yes, they're going to make mistakes. I'm very lucky that when I took over my farm, my father said, "It is up to you to make your own mistakes." So it's going to happen, and as long as they're not financially crippling, you're fine.
Exactly. Kirsty, have you got anything to add to bringing the next generation in and utilising their thoughts?
Not particularly. I think you did a good summary. As you said, this generation have grown up watching. So they're on social media, seeing what's happening in the world, seeing perhaps seeing more what consumers want as well, because they are seeing that in real time on their phones and things. So they're a lot more open-minded to that, and a lot of the things that we've spoken about so far. So yeah, small.
I think we do have a duty to safeguard the next generation of farmers coming up, and it can be a very disheartening business to be in. I think reminding them that you are able to make mistakes, and that's how it works, that's how you learn, and it's how you get better, is very important. And just keep encouraging. I think I'm quite early on in my career, and I think I've only ever had support, and it's been really lovely. It's been very welcoming. And I think if I can do the same to one other person, then I've won.
that is definitely a success. Really, really good points there. So thinking about that point that I'm getting from the panel, that we work in a fantastic industry, but maybe some of the industry are stuck in that furrow and not bold enough to make that change or put their head above the parapet. What kind of one mindset or one thing do you think UK farming could change to benefit that adaptation and opening a more open modern farming mindset?
I've said it before, I'll say it again, is get off the farm. Go and see the world is bigger than your farm gate. That's not where the world ends. Go and see something different and find something interesting. The best bit of advice I found when I was I was sat in another country, and on my own, and the farm visits I'd had been cancelled. So you would go to normal thing, you go to the bar and you drown your sorrows. And I'm sat in Singapore in a bar speaking to the barman, because I was like, okay, I don't know where I am, I don't know where I'm going. Have you got any suggestions? He's like, well, what do you want to do? I was like, well, I'm here to talk about farming. He's like, well, have you spoken to that chap who sat on the end of the bar over there who's growing the hops that's going into my beer? I'm like, no, I haven't. Let's go and have a chat to him. And you end up on a cycle, but you don't get there if you're still sat in your own farm. You have to go and see something new.
On that, I think it serves both generations for that to happen. When one of the biggest problems we have in this industry is the fact that the average farmer is in their 60s. Long after most people were aiming to retire, I think. So by perhaps not necessarily the young people, but older people stepping away and seeing how things are being done differently around the world, it helps make way for new ideas coming through from the younger generation. And that helps the farming business no end, whilst also giving someone an opportunity to make a mistake and fix it before someone gets back. Yeah. So.
Yeah, well said. I also think getting into a bar in the first place is a very, very good idea. A lot of good ideas come from that. And generally, joining a hockey club, having external aspects to because it can become very consuming. Getting out, going and visiting people in a completely different career is a really beneficial way to help you see the bigger picture.
No, some really, really great points there. So we're coming towards the end of the session, which is all good. So a question I'm going to ask all of you is where do you individually find your motivations when things are getting tough, or you're needing to make some change, or it's a bit scary ahead? Where would you find we'll start with you, Romney.
God, back in the bar. No, I'm joking. What motivates me? I mean, the network of farmers around me is a very big one. They are very helpful. I mean, asking for help is a massive thing that sometimes we forget to do, and it can become very consuming. So I think, for me, I'm a big asker of help, because I'm often breaking things and I'm often crying in a field, being quite overwhelmed. So I think I have a very lovely group on the Pevensey Marshes who know when my phone number flashes up that they need to get there quick.
I love. I was going to say I can't use that word, but I love a problem or something going wrong, because it's a challenge, and I see it as an opportunity to do something slightly different or learn from it. And I know not everybody feels that way. Some people can get sort of snowed under, but personally, I think that the challenges that we're facing in the industry are very exciting and could be a good opportunity in the long run. But that's not the case for everyone, I know.
No, definitely not. You enjoy creating a solution with an issue. I like to, if I get to a problem that I can't solve or things just feel a bit much, I go and do something that occupies the conscious part of my brain and lets the unconscious think for itself when it's not demanding. So some people, it is literally they go and make a cup of tea and sit and watch something on YouTube that they're interested in, they want to find about. For me, it's I take things apart and put it back together again, and all of a sudden in the back of my mind things tick away and it goes, oh, that's probably an answer, that's the solution, I might try that.
But your conscious mind tends to get in the way of that. If you sit there and stare at a problem that's driving you nuts, you just need to put it down, step away, and go and do something else that makes you happy, and you'll probably find your unconscious find a solution.
Brilliant. Thank you for those points. So, yeah, as I said, we're coming towards the end of the session. I'm just going to ask one more question of each of you. For our audience and people dialed in live, what one bit of advice would you give listeners and audience today about how they could open their modern farming mindset and while staying commercially sharp, but embracing the challenges or the opportunities, should I say, that face the industry ahead? Kirsty, do you want to kick us off?
I was going to say get off the farm, but I know that's going to be somebody else's point. So I'm going to say when someone comes knocking on your door to talk about something, let them in, as opposed to getting off. Yeah.
Romney?
I think it is going to be what Jamie says. But seize every opportunity possible, even if it doesn't fit into what you're interested in at that moment. They're always beneficial. Going off-site, jumping on, sort of going and looking at birds.
Being curious.
Being curious, exactly. Meeting new people, because there are some real gems out there, and those relationships, you might not talk to them again in 5 years, but in 10 years, that might be the exact number you need to call.
So I'll give a different answer. Instead of getting off farm, bring somebody else onto your farm. Just go and find somebody who is in a completely different industry and show them around and ask them what they think to what you're doing. Get a different perspective.
Brilliant. Can we all give our panel a round of applause? So thank you for that. It's a really, really interesting discussion, and some of this opening up to mindset and changing the way of thinking can be really, really scary. But I think what we've got from the panel today is surround yourself with some good people, look at different things, get off the farm as much as you can, and just take a step back and utilise that within your business, and not necessarily everything all at once, taking it bit by bit. So I think, thank you so much for Romney, for Kirsty and for Jamie for giving up their time today and coming down to the sessions. Likewise, we'd like to thank again Savills for their kind sponsorship for enabling this session to happen, and the Society for putting it all together. As I said, 12th of November, Wednesday the 12th of November in the evening, there'll be the farming conference here at the South of England Show in the Norfolk Pavilion. Please watch the website and the socials for tickets. But once again, thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Thank you for dialing in online, and we'll see you at the next one. Thank you.